there's a very spiritual bond between what horses have been able to do for us and what we've done. I mean, they are magical. They are spiritual in many ways. Their affection for us doesn't really exist. It's there because we take care of them, we feed them. But our affection for them is very unique and special. I was a 265-pound guy the first time I got on a horse, and I got on a horse at 2,000 pounds of muscle. I go, this is fucking cool. It doesn't get a whole lot better than that. And I fell in love forever.
So today, our guest is founder, CEO of dotFIT Worldwide.
If you're going to succeed and you're going to keep growing what you're trying to do, you need to surround yourself with people with the same self-interests. And the self-interest doesn't have to be in anything more than sort of your life values. In other words, is there something that you want to do in the world? What's important to you in the world?
He has devoted his career to nutrition, fitness, and is passionate about bringing fitness to every household. He's a fitness specialist, author, licensed teacher, researcher, and bodybuilding champion, personal fitness consultant and speaker. And today we welcome Mr. Neal Spruce to the Escape Limits podcast.
Thanks, Matthew. I appreciate it. I'm just honored to be here.
And I've never been in someone's house that's a castle with a real ghost either.
That's true. This place has got a great history. I mean, it's 100 years old, and it's got 4 floors of very creepy stuff when you're all by yourself. If you're not by yourself, everything's fine. But when you're by yourself, all kinds of weird sounds happen around here.
Yeah, it's very beautiful. And it's even got a helipad as well. So
thanks. Yeah, it does, exactly. Yeah, that's good. And we use it only when we need to.
Right. Yeah. So Neal, just what would be good is tell us a little bit about how fitness impacted you. How did you get into this? Where did it all start? And what were some of those sort of early things that influenced you to take on this type of path?
Yeah. Well, I mean, it goes back a long way because I would, as I say all the time, is that fitness and sports is actually what, kind of saved my life. Because, I grew up with no parents and lived with, different families. I left home when I was very young because it was a bad situation there. But I was always attracted to sports, and so I played basketball, football, and been playing football, all during high school and everything else. But I was also, unfortunately, when you grow up without any parenting, you kind of grow up an outlaw. You're always in trouble. So right. I was always in trouble. I was often on the run, and I ended up in motorcycle gangs.
Right.
Yeah, and once you're in motorcycle gangs, it's a tough way out. Right, but I didn't go too deep because what saved me from going too deep was sports and fitness. Everyone around me was dead or in jail at this point, right? So I realized I'm last man standing, and I realized at that point the only thing that saved my life was sports and fitness.
Right.
So at 24, I flipped a switch, and I said, "Hey, you know what? Football led to bodybuilding. I got some success in bodybuilding early on in my mid-20s." And I said to myself, hey, God, I just realized that, I'm last man standing. Sports and fitness just saved my life. And so I made a commitment that day. And by the way, I don't wish this on anybody. I'm almost cursed with the commitment because I made it. And when I flip the switch, it's done for good.
Right.
So I have sold out the rest of my life to save the world with sports and fitness. But the big question is, how do you do that when you never went to college? Not only did I never go to college, I never even drove by a college. No. Okay, so so I had to figure out take inventory of what do I have. Right. Well, I had passion and work ethic, and I may not be the smartest guy in the room, but I'll outwork anybody.
Right.
So I just figured out that if I could work harder than anybody else, I could get there. And so I did in bodybuilding, and I did support myself as a mechanic in my early life. So I could, realizing there's 24 hours in the day, if I could work 8 hours a day to support myself legitimately instead of the outlaw life, right? And train and study to be the smartest guy in nutrition, right, and all that, then I could probably pass everybody up at some point. Right. So that's what I did.
Just to jump in there on the bodybuilding and fitness end, what was that influence? Because you mentioned motorcycle gangs. Was that just an evolution of sports that you're interested, or what sort of inspired you to get into specifically fitness and bodybuilding?
I think, and I say this to my kids, I have actually 2 professional athletes and their sons. I say this to them. If you're good at it early, you just keep doing it. Right. And so I was good at it early. Yeah. I was good at all the little sports I played when I was a kid, and the families I lived with always liked me because they wanted their son to be like that. Can you be as good as he? So that was the good part about them taking me in and doing that. So that's what it is. If you're good at it, you just keep wanting to do it. And then there was, but Matthew, you're bringing up a good point, because it wasn't until I was a junior in high school where I flipped the switch on nutrition, where I never, food was very difficult for me to get. When you live in the streets, it's very difficult to find food. But this family I lived with when I was a junior in high school, the mom would make me these 5 sandwiches every day. And as soon as I started eating them, all of a sudden, I'm like the best guy on the team. You know what I mean? Rather than being just the guy that couldn't do the wind sprints, right? At the end of the practice, I'm dying, right? And then I go, the only difference was what I was eating.
Really?
And so I realized at that point, that flipped the switch on nutrition, and of course sports I was always good at, so it kind of combined to make me feel really good about this is something I just love to do.
Yeah. And did you have any sort of external reinforcement of that with people around you, or was that sort of like very much you're on your own and you kind of you did that yourself?
More the latter. Obviously not having a father.
Yeah.
I do have a mother, but I didn't really grow up with her, so that had nothing to do with that. She never even knew I played football, I'm sure, or even competed in bodybuilding. Doesn't really know what it is. But I did have other family. I have a couple of sisters that did know what I did, and one of my sisters used to always follow me around. So I got encouragement from her. But the more encouragement was just from the friends all around you. Because I accelerated so fast in bodybuilding that all my friends were going to all my contests. I mean, I have 100 people buying plane tickets, to go to Vegas or New York to watch me compete. And that's the worst part of it, because you hate it if you don't win, right? You just hate letting them down. So I had that encouragement, but I had nothing around me family-wise other than one of my sisters.
Yeah. And on bodybuilding though, what level? What level did you get up to then?
I won the Western USA. I think it was in 1980, Western America in 81, which is big. That was kind of the prelude to anybody that won the Western America is probably going to, win the Mr. America, right? Right. So between that, I won the heavyweight class too, which is when heavyweights are always the ones they really liked, right? So, but the next year I competed in the Mr. USA and I came in second. I actually beat Mike Christian, Bob Paris, all these top bodybuilders of the day. In fact, Bob Paris and I tied for second. I won the tiebreaker. But Jordan, I forget the guy's name. The guy never even did anything after that. A guy named Jordan, I think, ended up winning the heavyweight that year. Next year, I competed again, and Stridham won it. Gary Stridham won it, and in the Mr. USA, which is like obviously a national. And then I came in second that year again, or third, I think. So I mean, I got to that level of always that close to just winning that big title all the time. And it just didn't happen, but I didn't give up. I kind of competed what 9 more years trying, right? But I was never getting any higher in placing. Right. At some point, you got to kind of figure that out.
Yeah. And did with doing the bodybuilding side, was that where you're sort of you honed your knowledge of nutrition? Because I guess that's
for sure.
Quite you've got to really understand it to get to a decent level on that.
Well, I think what bodybuilding is obviously the story I just told you about football turned me on to nutrition and realized, wow, what a difference it is when you eat. Okay. So at some level, there's a percentage of that that's going to transfer no matter how well you eat. That what's the best, 75% of what you need, you're going to play 75% of what you can do. 100% is 100%, because you realize that nutrition is 100%. You're responsible for everything that happens inside your body. So at that point, it really was all about bodybuilding, because bodybuilding is more nutrition than training. Everybody can train. I mean, it's easy to lift heavy stuff.
Right.
We used to always joke around about that. Lifting heavy stuff is easy. We loved the gym. I mean, that was a favorite part of it. But diet was everything. How do you feed your body to grow muscle and lose body fat at the same time, or grow muscle and minimize the amount of body fat you gain during that? Right. And that was the magic of the formulas. And easily, any humble successes I've had in nutrition, which arguably might be more than anybody else in health and fitness, is based on my bodybuilding background and what I learned through that process of bodybuilding, of taking your body from this down to, I mean, the minuscule amount or infinitesimal amount of body fat, right? And back up. Knowing that I don't care who you are, everybody struggles with that same pain to get to whatever point they're trying to get to, you know? So it made it easier for me to translate that to the public that we work with now, mainstream America. Right. So that was the nutrition turnoff. And bodybuilding was absolutely the trigger for my going deep into nutrition. So there's been no difference, Matthew. I study it harder now than I even did then, and I studied every day for 3 or 4 hours a day.
Really?
Yeah.
So it was all self-taught, was it?
All self-taught, yeah.
Right.
I've gone to millions of conventions and listened to the greatest speakers in the world. And full disclosure, I will tell you, everything I have learned, I have stood on the shoulders of the greatest scientists, nutrition scientists in the world, and just translated what they were saying into something that people can use. Yeah. So that's been the little success piece that I've been lucky to have.
And I have some of those views in terms of I guess, conditioning the body, losing weight. Has any of those views radically changed from what you learned all those years ago? Or
not a whole lot. No. One thing that every bodybuilder on the planet knows, at the end of the day, it's calories in, calories out, and that's what you're going to end up adjusting. And then the only way you're going to maintain muscle is high protein diets. Right. I mean, during a diet thing. Right. You don't have to have high protein to build muscle. In fact, high protein can actually harm that if it's too high protein with low carbs. So at some point, so nothing has really changed. It hasn't changed much at all. One of the things that has changed, though, Matthew, I will tell you this, is that the older you get, the more protein you need. And that's a lot of things people don't understand. So right. I mentioned earlier, I have 2 sons that are in their very early 20s that are professional athletes. They need less protein than I do, and they're twice my size.
Really?
Because at the end of the day, we're not supposed to be here. The human beings were never programmed or never genetically evolved to live past their 30s or anything else. Once modern technologies and medicine came in, and most people don't know this, but they don't think about this, but the average life of the human being until 1931, until Alexander Fleming discovered penicillin, was 47 years.
Really?
Now, before that, I don't need to tell you, ancient humans was 20. I mean, literally, 20s, 25, you're done. The second you can't hunt, it's game over, right? I mean, you're done. So, and we weren't programmed to, because food wasn't available everywhere. So you died of starvation, you died of all types of things, and you died of the fact that you couldn't put all the things that your body could actually use to make it work. So that's always the big problem we've had. So now that we're older, what people don't realize is that, well, we're really not supposed to be here. So the body's shutting down after puberty.
Really?
You understand? After puberty, your body is now, old age is setting in. It's a very small amount of old age, because you can still grow muscle all the way up, for quite a long time, as long as you add resistance. But by the 4th decade of life, you can't grow muscle anymore unless you add resistance to it and force it to grow. Right. And all these other different things that we do today, the body just stops making things like it used to and stops doing things like. When's the last time you saw anybody grow in their 30s? Height. No. They don't. That's the point. So everything was shut down then, because you're supposed to reproduce when you're 12 or 13, but we don't do that anymore, which would be a huge mistake, but you're supposed to the first time you mince. That's what you're designed to do. Well, we've cheated death, and we've figured out how to live longer. So what I do in my life, what bodybuilding taught me, is, what do I need to do? How do I feed this body so I can live? My play span is equal to my lifespan. I can do all the things I still want to do as I get up to be. Because now we know we can live to be 100. How do you live well to 100? That's the key. Right. And that's what bodybuilding is. So that's the fascination of nutrition to me. Because it's all nutrition. Right. Trust me, it's all nutrition. Obviously, you got to stay active. You can't be, way overweight. You can be overweight as long as you're active, and you fill all your gaps throughout life, and you compensate for all the things that happens when you get older.
And what do you think about the exit you mentioned? There's sort of adding resistance. So how important is that? Yeah. Do you think as you get older, then continuing to build muscle and add resistance?
Well, without a doubt, and that's real important. When you look at the study of centenarians, which are people that live to be 100 years old, many of them, in fact, most of them probably didn't exercise, or when I say exercise, the definition of exercise that the average audience will think of, right? Working out with weights and doing aerobic work and that kind of thing. But they were active, and they kept their weight down. And it's all about activity. But what exercise does, it adds to that activity. So these centenarians that were, and don't forget, if you're a centenarian, it just means that you were very lucky and you had great genes, okay? Okay, and a lot of good things there. And of course, you ate well and you probably didn't smoke or any of that kind of stuff. But the point is that what exercise does, and this is the great thing about exercise, and especially resistance, it opens up your body to accept more nutrition to build a stronger foundation that will last longer into your old age.
Right, okay.
That's the key.
Yeah.
Because your diet is going to leave gaps in what your body can actually use. And your exercise can open gaps to more that your body can use.
Right,
and now you've got it all.
Right.
When you can do that.
What's your general views on diet and diets?
Yeah, so make sure I don't miss anything you're talking about. But let's start from the beginning. So if you're talking about the general population, the answer to your best diet is the one that you can stick to, that's going to maintain a healthy weight. In other words, if you're starting out at 100 pounds overweight, whatever it took you to get down to a healthy weight and maintain it, that's the best diet. Whether it been the paleo diet, that doesn't mean you can stay on it, because the paleo diet is ranked as one of the more unhealthy diets, okay? But don't get me wrong, you can supplement it properly and make up for all the things it's missing.
Right.
All the fad diets out there are missing something, because that's what a fad diet does. It makes it easy to eat. It's trying to find a place where it can get you kind of, make this easy. Now, you look at the ketogenic diet, or you look at the intermittent fasting diet, which are very popular today. I always tell people, they ask me the question about it, and I always say, hey, you know what? If it gets you to lose the weight that you need to lose, great. But just make sure you go back to eating within the guidelines somewhere as far as you get all the nutrition you need. And you should always supplement no matter what diet. In fact, if you're dieting, it's criminal if you don't supplement, because you are going to have huge gaps. You're going to miss all kinds of important nutrients that we have to have throughout life. And then your foundation is just going to kind of brittle, but even though your weight's going down, so's your bones and so's everything else, and your cardiovascular system and everything else. So you've got to do that. But so the answer to the question on the general population is that if you're trying to lose weight, any diet that will help you lose weight and you can stick to it is the one that's going to work for you, as long as you're somewhere within the guidelines. And if you're not, you got to make sure that you're supplementing heavily, very heavily, to maintain muscle.
Within that diet.
High protein diets are always, no matter what, and I'll tell you this, I think every human being on the planet, and I don't care where they are, and I always say womb to tomb, 1 gram per pound of lean body mass of protein. And then the rest, let it fall into place, right? Your carbs should always be good carbs, not bad carbs, obviously. So you're not going to just eat table sugar and sodas that are pure sugar and those type of things, obviously. They would be good. The whole grains that are that. But when people start talking about caveman diets and paleo diet, let me explain something to you. Those people didn't live past 30. That'd be the wrong thing to try to sell to me. I'll tell you that right now. Okay, so I'm not telling you that it won't work for you, because there's no such thing as the real paleo diet or the real caveman diet. I mean, they're all so like it's our marketing twist. Their marketing twist to whatever they're trying to get across to you. Well, that's what we ate, and that's what got our species here. Yeah, we all died young. Okay, so that's not what kept us here. So anyway, and I think the argument against all those type of diets is that human beings, and you can ask any scientist this, and I'm a non-scientist, so that's a full disclosure here. Everybody knows I'm a non-scientist. But I've been around the best scientists in the world, and so osmosis, I get to learn a little bit, and of course I study every day. And that is that, human beings, as we migrated from Africa, we just adapted to whatever food was available.
Right, okay.
It wasn't like we were laying a table out there with all the stuff that we needed. Oh, that's a paleo diet. That's how we got there. Right. Oh, okay, but I'm not sure you want to go back there, okay? So anyway, it is. That's what it comes down to with food. Nothing different. And I think, bodybuilders have always been intuitive on what it took, to sort of maintain the body. That doesn't mean it was always the best diet. Trust me. Bodybuilders will do whatever it takes to win. So you'll cut corners on that.
Yeah. So you did your bodybuilding, and you was a mechanic at the same time. Is that right?
Yeah.
So you were kind of doing those two, and then so what happened? You obviously didn't continue fixing stuff.
Right. I didn't. That was to support myself. Once I left that, the bad life, where you did all those things. Trust me, I'm not proud of the things that I had done in my early life. But once you left that, you had to support yourself and figure that part out, and I did. And I was very good at it because I made a rule to myself: I will never do anything unless I can at least try to be the best. Doesn't mean I'm going to be the best, but at least try to be the best.
Right.
So I did, and I succeeded at that. So I was able to make a lot of money as a mechanic. I was always kind of a specialty mechanic. And
do you think that's a good lesson that served you well? If you're going to do it, then aim to be the best at it.
Absolutely. I mean, why would you do anything unless you want to be really good at it? One of the reasons I don't ski or do some of the other sporting events, is because if I'm not going to do it, once or twice. If I want to do it, if I want to be good at it, I mean, I'll certainly try it.
Yeah.
But without a doubt. I mean, there's no point if it's a vocation, if it's your job. I don't care if you're flipping burgers. I don't care if you're delivering mail. I don't care if you are a research scientist or anything in between. You're a teacher, a sixth grade teacher, a junior high school teacher. Why would you not want to be or try to be perfect at it? It's such a waste of time. Right? And I know that there's a lot of preparation to be really good at it, but I sacrificed that because I mentioned this earlier in our conversation. I had an epiphany when I left gang life, and it was there's 24 hours in a day because I had to catch up. How at 24 years old, where I never went to school, I'm not going to catch up with everybody. I realized that, okay, I could work 8 hours, I could study 8 hours, right? And I only need to sleep 6, let's just say. So I could do my whole hobby for 8 hours a day. So that's how I kind of maintain the balance between the two, right? And be able to try to be the best. Even though bodybuilding is what I wanted to be the best at, I wanted to be the next Arnold Schwarzenegger for sure. And so that was what I was supporting myself as a mechanic, but I was not going to be a bad mechanic. It was too embarrassing just to collect a paycheck.
Yeah.
I wanted to be the guy you couldn't wait. You couldn't wait. If you're the owner, and the guy's name was Ray Hudson, if you're the owner of the shop, you couldn't wait to write my paycheck out because that was the best money you ever spent. And that's the way I wanted to feel always.
Yeah. So how did you come to leave that?
Because I ended up making it Gold's Gym. Gold's Gym had already started using me after I won the Mr. Western America. Ed Connors, who was one of the owners of Gold's Gym at the time, there was one Gold's Gym in Venice. And the second one just opened up in San Francisco. And so he asked, would you like on weekends, I know you work during the day and stuff, I just won the Western America, work there on the weekends and we'll sponsor you. We'll take care of your competitions and fly you and take care of your hotel rooms and stuff. And I said, that'd be great, right? So that was the beginning. And then, so here's the magic though, Matthew, you'll love this. So this place is like under the freeway in San Francisco, and you had to park your car somewhere else because you would have no tires left, when you got it. So I would be there at the desk on Saturdays and Sundays. People would come in, and I say, so they want to join the gym, and the gym was about as big as a couple of my rooms here. And they look around, and I said, that's it right there. And they go, you gonna show me around? I go, no. So how are you gonna eat after you join here? And they go, well, I don't know, I just want to work out. And I go, no, you don't. You're not gonna. You'll end up leaving here because you're not gonna get what you want if you don't have a diet. So I would handwrite everyone's diet before they paid me for the membership. And Ed came up to me after, he goes, I heard you're not letting anybody join unless they get your diet. And I go, why would I? Then they're just going to quit, Ed. And he goes, oh, God, that's magic. Okay, so that was the beginning of it. So they asked, and so they moved me down to Venice back in 87. So this was going on. Yeah, that was the original one in Venice. So they said, you come down to Venice and build the nutrition programs because we're going to launch these Gold's Gyms all over the world. And we want you to help us. So that's what happened. I said, okay. So I was it. So now that was my break from being a mechanic to working for them. And they paid me, obviously nothing because Gold's Gym was just starting. And so the rule was I had to be out 28 days traveling all over the world, doing grand openings and seminars and putting the nutrition program in gyms, then home 14, out 28. Right. So you bring and don't forget, I'm still competing. So I'm training twice a day, doing two seminars a day, one for the staff, one for the members to sign up for the nutrition program. And when I got done with the seminar, there was fights to get to the counter to sign up for the nutrition program. So you knew you hit you hit the big one, right?
And selling nutrition, or was it?
It was a nutrition program only at that time. It wasn't tied necessarily to trainers. They just had someone that I would train to run the nutrition program like I would. Right. It was called Nutrition Analysis, and that was the beginning of the beginning for all of that stuff. And it just went through 535 gyms by the time I left. And I retired from bodybuilding and then started Apex, so I could go beyond the Gold's Gym thing to save the world of fitness, as I made that decision when I was 24.
And was that successful then financially for them to?
Very successful for them, yes. I think the bigger success, it isn't so much in how much money they made on the nutrition program and the license fees they got from that, because remember, they were a franchise and so forth. It wasn't so much that. It was more about the expansion of Gold's. It was a special place to be. We did stuff in personal training no one did. When I met Mark Masteroff, who started 24 Hour Fitness, he owned Family Fitness he owned 24 Hour Nautilus at that time, and then you had Ray Wilson that owned Family Fitness, and Mark was putting them together. And Mark started traveling around to all the Gold's gyms, looking at them when he was putting all this deal together. And he goes, these guys are doing more in personal training than we do in memberships. And they're doing more personal training than doing memberships. And that's the model that we built in the 80s.
Right.
We built that model because everybody wanted to be part of it because nutrition was connected to it.
Right.
And so Mark said, well, screw it, I'll just buy them all. So he bought 160 gyms in 5 minutes. I mean, it was unbelievable. He bought all the top Gold's gyms in the country, from Hawaii to Texas to San Francisco and everything. He put all the investors together, and that's why we're partners today.
Right.
That's the magic of him and I. So that's what it really did. It got Gold's the money, because Gold's was never. It was, Pete Gromkowski, who was just an entrepreneur himself. He was the guy that came up with the idea of franchising the name, because Joe Gold sold it to a guy named Ken Sprague back in right after Pumping Iron.
Right.
And whatever he got, I don't know what he got for it, but who cares? It was just a little shithole, on Pacific Avenue in Venice, or in Santa Monica. And Pete got it from him because something went wrong there. So Pete got it from him, and Tim and Ed got involved. And Pete goes, everybody wants to be Gold's. Everyone wants the name, so just let them hang the shingle out in front of their gym. So that's how it all started.
Right.
And then Joe Gold goes, God, why didn't I think of that?
Yeah.
So he started World Gym.
Oh, okay.
And that's what he did.
That.
Yeah.
Right. Okay.
So that was Joe Gold who started World Gym and did that now with their competitor. Of course, nothing ever touched Gold. It's still the biggest name today. Today, if you do any kind of brand studies, you'll see that Gold's Gym is the most famous name,
Right.
the most well-known name in fitness anywhere in the world.
Right.
I don't care where I went. I can go in the deepest, darkest Africa, South America, Australia. Everyone knew Gold's Gym.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And do you think that model that they created, does that still work in there? Do you know the sort
No,
of
Gold's.
nutrition?
In Gold's.
Combining the sort
Not
of-
in Gold's. No.
It doesn't.
No, Gold's doesn't do nutrition anymore that I know of. I mean, they sold 3 times since those days,
Yeah,
right?
yeah.
And what happens is if you don't get people that are passionate about fitness, you don't get them to understand the holistic approach that needs to be done if you really want to build something special.
Yeah.
Mark, when he first saw me speak in the mid-90s, he just goes, okay, we're doing it.
And this was at 24 hours.
Yeah, but he wasn't even quite 24 hour yet. They were still
Okay.
putting them together. He saw me speak and he goes, well, we're going to do that. So, and you should know this, Matthew, when we did it. We did it in 24 hour, and we ended up with 435 gyms, doing over $400 million a year in personal training, $100 million a year in nutrition. When we sold 24 Hour Fitness in 2005, we sold it for $1.68 billion. $700 million was Apex, the nutrition component of my company, because of what we had brought there, because we had the margins, and it was that big of a boost into the EBITDA, and we sold for a 10 times multiplier. So so I'm just saying that. So needless to say, Mark and I have been partners forever, and we will never do a gym. We will never do anything without nutrition.
Yeah.
Without it, now most people can't crack the code. The difference is, and this is the aha moment for anybody that wants to be an entrepreneur. And that is, if you have a vision and a mission, you have to hold people accountable to that vision and mission. You can't do it if you don't hold their compensation accountable to it. If you don't figure out a way to make them understand, you aren't going to make the money unless you run our play. The problem with the gym business today, outside of our brands and the other ones that have followed our lead, is that they let the inmates run the asylum. They let the employees or the staff, because they're afraid to lose them. Oh, we're afraid to lose them. We're not afraid. The tail doesn't wag the dog in our place. Okay, we just, if you don't run our play, you're out of here. You know, we hire you, we onboard you so you can run our play, and you make more money. Trainers in our gyms, we have trainers that make over $200,000 a year. Most gyms don't have that because they run our play.
Right.
You know, and that includes nutrition. But if you don't, they won't.
No.
They take the least path of resistance. You know, trainers would always drive me crazy on that part of it there. They'll take the least path of resistance unless they have that aha moment. You know?
Yeah. So talk about, at 24 Hour Fitness then, just to go in a little bit deeper to what, you obviously had a magic recipe there on a number of levels, but in terms of the making it work, instead of just selling memberships and personal training, what was that you were actually doing?
Okay, so first of all, I want to make sure that everybody realizes I was not the magic in making it work. I was the mad scientist in the ivory tower that says this is what you need to do to make everybody have the right formula for what they need to succeed in their life with goals. And somehow Mark and Jim Rowley, Derek Gallup, they would just make it work, right? I mean, so I just hand it off and they just, because that's the hardest thing to do, Matthew, is how do you execute?
Yeah.
It's one thing to have all these grandiose ideas of what you should do. How do you execute it? So it took us many years to get that done. So it really was an operational buy into the vision and figure out a layer of staffing that's going to get that done and make it profitable. Because again, it doesn't do you any good if you can't make money on it, right? So that was a very difficult part and a great question that you're asking. It really was the operational side, and people would just go, "We got to do that." You know, and I go, and of course I'm just making this stuff up and passing it off to you. And it is the right stuff to do. But the point is, how do you make it work in a gym? And the magic was really Mark, Jim, Derek, these guys at 24 Hour Fitness. That was the magic, was the operational sort of layers of staff you had to make sure it worked and the checks and balances to do it and hold people accountable.
Right, okay. But on a simple level, you're essentially selling memberships to people, getting them into a nutrition program that included them buying some form of supplementation. Is that?
Yeah. So start from the beginning. When we sold, we were the very first, and we won't give even us a 24-hour credit. We'll give Gold's Gym and a guy named JP, John Paul, credit for this. He was the first guy, and this is back in 1986 when I first started with Gold's. He was the first guy to sell personal training at point of sale.
Right.
No one had ever done that, so it's unheard of. You get a membership, and then after that, you try to figure out how to sell them something else, right? He said he would always sell the goal rather than the menu.
Right.
So what's your goal? What brought you in today? Well, I saw the ad. No. What physically brought you in? And he would just go. He would ask that question, and he would say, and he'd go, well, I want to lose some weight. I want to do this. Okay, so here it is. He'd push card and pencil right there. He'd go sign there, and it would be a 12-week personal training program. Because you're not going to do it on your own. We know that, right? We have the attrition rate in the gym. I don't know if you know this. The success rate for health clubs is the worst success rate of any business anywhere in the United States. It has the highest attrition rate of any business. But in our defense, we sell shit people don't like to do, right? They don't want to exercise. That's the way it is, right? They just try it and then, it doesn't work for me. So we want to make sure that didn't happen. So he did that. And it was groundbreaking. And we would just watch it and we go, God, that is magic. I mean, so all our pre-sales, everything, he's selling personal training at point of sale. Now, so fast forward to all the years today. So we took that and refined it so we're always going to try to sell you personal training at point of sale.
Right.
So now you're already done. When the personal training includes nutrition, whether it's just part of it.
Right.
So you've got an hour session. Back then it was an hour. Now we have 30-minute sessions often also. An hour session, you got 15 minutes setting up your nutrition program. 45 minutes on the floor, your first session. Next session, you've got 5 minutes nutrition just to follow up, and then 55 minutes on the floor, right? So to make sure so we did that all the way through all that, all those times. Now, if you didn't buy personal training at point of sale, then you went to your normal free fitness, free what we call fitness orientation to make sure that you train properly and you get all the guidance you need. We try to sell you again at that point.
Right.
You need this, okay? Because you really don't know how many calories you eat, or you need to get to your goal. You don't need all this. We try one more time there, and we'll get more of them there. But the problem in the gym business, for anybody out there that's listening, most people don't show up to their fitness orientation because they just kind of go into the gym and kind of get that. Yeah. So we had all kinds of gifts there for them to make sure they showed up. So that was really the magic of our process. Our process started, we're going to sell you right now on your goal, not the menu. Every gym's got weights and dumbbells and clean bathrooms and all that. I'm going to sell you on your goal, and we're going to get you there. And here's the program. Push card and pencil, sign there.
Right.
Okay. Then if I don't get you there, I'll sell you the membership.
Yeah.
Membership was your drop close. Okay. You know what I mean? And that's how it all started. Now, of course, that's refined now. But if you go into any of our clubs, Crunch, UFC, any of our big brands right now, the exact same process takes place. We will try to get you because it's just wrong. It's like going out and going on the ski slopes for the first time without an instructor. Yeah. You know what I mean? It's just wrong because great things can happen if you have an instructor, and it doesn't cost that much to get one in the beginning.
No.
Yeah, use them for 2 or 3 sessions. Do whatever you got to do. So we try to get that. If we don't, we get it there, and then after that, and then the nutrition program. We never separate nutrition. The magic to that is you never separate nutrition from exercise.
Right.
The second you do that, you're done. Because now they're going, well, I'm on exercise. No. It's the same program.
Right.
This is my program. You came to me. I didn't. You're coming to me for this. This is the program. We're not going to do half the program. We're going to do the whole program. So I got not just the 1 hour of the day here I'm with you, or the 30 minutes, the other 23, here's what your program is to make sure that 1 hour counts. Yeah. So we would get all that across to them all the way around. So that's our process. We still do it today. It's just refined a little differently because the low price, high volume clubs have cut into a lot of the people that are coming into the clubs. You know?
Yeah. And when you say process, is that also a key thing? You know, imagine there's a lot of people opening studios and personal trainers doing different businesses. Is that also, would you say, a kind of key success factor? You know, you could have, as you said, great gym, great equipment, great nutrition products, but getting that process and running that process is, you know, how much would you sort of put as that being a critical success factor?
Without a doubt, because the process doesn't work if you don't hold the whole staff accountable to running the process. Otherwise, it just kind of breaks down someplace, somewhere, which means you have to hold their pay accountable to running the process. You were just talking about like the small boxes and all the personal training things. That's really, a lot of those things are happening today. I mean, they're taking a lot of our business away because people want that. They want that little specialty training, and many people can afford it.
Yeah.
You know, so I'm not sure I'm answering your question. So what's the heart of the question?
So in terms of, everybody's got, as you said, everybody's got a kind of a gym.
Yep.
They may or may not offer some sort of nutrition products, proteins, whatever. But you talk about you having an actual physical process. So, you know, you come in, this is what you do. You know, you sell your PT at point of sale, then you go on to do that. How important is it that, you know, the architecture of that actual process, so that you can make sure everybody's following the same path?
Yeah, and again, so I did sort of answer it. You do have to hold everybody's compensation accountable to that.
Right.
Yeah, that the most important thing, Matthew, is that we always say is that this is our play. You don't deviate from the play.
Yeah.
That doesn't mean everyone's going to buy their multivitamin, even though everyone on the planet needs one.
Yeah.
And the ones you buy in the mass market are junk. We know that. So everybody needs one. They're not all going to buy it.
No.
But you do have to present it within the program.
Right.
And make it look like it's part of the program.
Yeah.
Okay? And make it compelling. Yeah. Because the facts are, it is compelling.
Yeah.
If they don't buy, fine. But 50% will, because they get it. They understand that you're a practitioner and this product is a practitioner product. So we hold them accountable. If they don't, and we can always tell if they don't, because you can just look. I mean, what we do know is that 50% of the people that come into our programs, when they are presented the facts, they will purchase.
Yeah.
We know that if you don't present the facts, they won't. So it's pretty easy to tell from you that you're not getting it done, right? So we have a 3-strike rule. We take you back to class and we teach you how you have the right conversation. Doesn't work again. We take you back to class, have the right conversation. Doesn't work again. Strike 3. You're out. And we bring on somebody else. And we have a big bench, so we keep training people, so they're ready to go all the time. And we onboard them with all the right information. Yeah. Your best trainers that are most successful for us will be the newbies that are not tainted with bad information.
Yeah.
Where they say, well, this is not what I want to do because I never did this before.
Yeah.
Well, you're going to do it now. So that's there. So we're very strict on our process to make sure you run our play, which is, I'll give you, and you'll love this. So when we took over Crunch in 2008, they were, heading to bankruptcy. And they were doing about 55,000. Now, these are small clubs. People should also know that they're only 20,000 square feet, so they're not big clubs. But had a good brand. But had a good brand recognition. They were doing about 50. The average club from New York, San Francisco, Miami, Chicago, you combine them all, their average club was doing about $55,000 a month in personal training. And there's some clubs that think that's okay. I mean, we're used to doing $200,000, $300,000 a month in a club, but in bigger boxes. We took them over in 2008. Fast forward 5 years. Well, we didn't do anything. We didn't change the landscape. We didn't move the club. We didn't buy any new equipment. We didn't tell. We did not move it to an area where only rich people were. We didn't do anything except brought in our personal training program with nutrition. Nothing else.
Yeah.
Brought it in. Two things happened. So as we go through 2009, 2010, we end up having to fire 60, 70% of the trainers because they couldn't run a new play.
Right.
They want to run their play. Well, guess what? Your play wasn't working. You're bankrupt. Okay? So we come in, do it. Needless to say, we pulled it out of bankruptcy almost immediately. And our average club today does between $250,000 and $300,000 a month in a little 20,000 square foot. So that's the difference. Yeah. So it works for everybody.
Yeah.
It works for the trainer. It works for the business. Most importantly, it works for the client.
For the member,
yeah. So now you got a win-win-win-win.
Yeah. And it sounds, just as an outsider, it sounds like the secret recipe, as you said, is that you're combining the fitness and nutrition, which I guess in a lot of cases that doesn't happen. So making
most cases
seem
as
it's a single product instead of two separate ones.
Yeah.
And then there's a very strong process that shows people that have probably not done it before exactly what the steps are to do it correctly. So sounds like there's a very strong system in place.
Correct.
And then thirdly is ensuring that system gets followed, and there's a sort of a development process, and if they're not working, then put new people in the system. Is that
nailed it? Yeah. Perfect summary.
Right. And I guess it sounds very simple, but I guess there's a lot of people in clubs and business out there that don't have anything like that.
They won't. The reason is, and this is what and again, I've obviously been doing this for 30 years. We'd approach a club because every club wants to be like us. They always think that, well, I'd love to be able to do that. I go, well, the only way you're going to do it is if you hold people accountable to the nutrition component, and they're not willing to do that.
No.
They go, oh, I can't do that. I can't compromise their paycheck just because they didn't get people involved with the supplements they need. And they go, but you take them, so why wouldn't you want your clients to be exposed to them? You know what I mean? And they go, well, I just can't hold them accountable. Well, we do, because it's the right thing for the customer and their family.
Yeah.
If we do it for our families, why wouldn't we want to do it for our customers? Yeah. And we know that those are, so we hold people accountable to make sure you present it. Yeah. That's all it is. Nothing more than that. You can't force someone to buy something, but if you present the facts, and I will tell you something, Matthew, I'm 65 years old and I have never sold one thing in my life, ever. I have only told you the facts and I assume the sale. Yeah. You're not going to say no because I just told you the facts.
Yeah.
You say no, well, that's something's wrong with that picture. Right. I mean, but doesn't mean I'm not going to say, okay, fine, but that's at least some point you've got to tell them, because it's a responsibility for any fitness professional. Now, if you're an exercise instructor, Matthew, who gives a shit? You just do whatever you want. You tell them how to exercise. Yeah. If you're a fitness professional, and don't forget, fitness includes nutrition. Fitness is health, overall health, nutrition, all of it. If you are a fitness professional, or if you're a health professional, you have to include nutrition, and you are irresponsible if you don't present to them. You need to fill your gaps if you want to live a longer, better life, and here are the things you need to fill gaps.
Yeah. And how would people then, I'm just sort of going in on that one, there's obviously a lot of competition with people doing nutrition. You can get it online. The prices of protein and everything are probably through the floor. It's becoming, I guess, kind of commodity. How, and I know yours is a high quality product.
Yeah. How
do you and the people working with you deal with that, and particularly in Crunch, which are, I guess, they're not a sort of the most expensive club on the market. How do you get them to sell a high quality product when people are like, well, I like the idea, but I'm going to get my protein from Amazon or something like that?
Number one problem we deal with.
Right. I thought it was.
Without a doubt. As soon as you tell someone, okay, you want your protein before and after your workout, and here's your multivitamin. So we have a multivitamin for $19, right? It'll last you 60 days. You can go to Costco and get one for $6.95 that'll last you 90 days, right? So what's the argument? Okay, there's a couple little things there. So these guys are taught there in school. First of all, if you go anywhere near the mass market, if you go anywhere in the newspapers, it just tells you how many times supplement companies have been busted for underformulation. They don't work. So when you look at a multivitamin, Centrum, one a day, all your top brands have been sued multiple times for putting in stuff too low and making claims about how they were going to help your eye health and your brain health and your heart health. They wouldn't help the eye health, brain health, or heart health of an ant, let alone a human being. But that's how they sell it so cheap. They compromise the ingredients to do that. In the mass market, they compete on price. Okay, so us being a practitioner product, we follow what they call practitioner product rules, which means we only distribute to practitioners, professionals. So doctors' offices, professional sports teams, and trainers. So our product has to meet a certain criteria, which means the formula has to match clinical trials to efficacy and safety. Well, to do that, you got to put the real amount of the ingredients in, which is going to cost 2 or 3 times more if it's going to work. Well, I'd rather have one that works that could help me extend my life and my play span than one that doesn't, just to pay for it. So mass market, and you can't blame Costco, you can't blame GNC, you can't blame any of these mass marketers because they're just retailers. They just put stuff on the shelf, right? And so they sell to you, and it's your decision to go buy it. Nobody, and Matthew, I would argue nobody in anywhere, unless you have gone through the schooling that we put our people through and everything else, are qualified to buy a dietary supplement on their own. You need a professional to do that. The other thing is we integrate your product with exercise and your menu planning. Right. So it's matched to that. Yeah. Does the Costco clerk do that? Jump over the counter and take you through a workout? You know what I mean? So, I mean, there's a value to what we're saying here. Now, here's the big one, though. You talk protein, because that's the biggest argument we get. Because protein's the hottest thing in the world right now. Everywhere. Everybody's buying protein. Well, how can whey protein get cheaper? I buy the raw material for, 10 years ago, I'm buying the raw material for, say, $6 a kilo, or I'm making up a number, right? It's gone up to $12 or $15 a kilo. But protein in the mass market has gone down, whey protein. Well, there's something wrong with that picture. So we busted them all. So myself and some other practitioner product organizations busted all of these guys, whether it be Muscle Farm, whether it be Nature's, whether it be all your top retailers out there that are selling protein. They were protein spiking.
What does that mean?
What they were doing was they were claiming there were 25 grams of protein. There was actually 2.5 grams of protein and 25 grams of carbs. They were claiming that because what they would do is just throw miscellaneous amino acids in to raise the nitrogen count. It's a kind of strange the way the FDA tests these things. So they just cheated the system by throwing in miscellaneous nitrogen radicals that would raise the nitrogen count in a protein powder. So if you tested it, you go, well, it's got 16% protein, which is 16% nitrogen, which is what a protein molecule has. But it wasn't protein. So it turned out, and so they got busted. They all class action suits. They're still going on today against every top major retailer out there. That's why you stay away from the mass market, and that's why all the bad press is out there. I mean, it's horrible. I mean, when you talk to scientists, every one of your top nutritional scientists take supplements, but they don't take mass market supplements. They take practitioner products because they know that you need to fill gaps and do all those things. So that's how we defeat it. But that's a tough conversation. Yeah. So the easier conversation, Matthew, is this. You know what, Mrs. Jones, I know you can get this, when she said, well, I can get that protein for, instead of $55, I can get it for $35, and I can get a multi for $6.95. Oh, that's great. You know what? Save that for when you're done with me. Because you came to me, this is my program. I'm a practitioner. These are practitioner products. They're certified. They're third-party tested by someone else. They're done in a completely different way. In the mass market's got all kinds of problems. So save that. You can do that. You can do whatever you want when you leave me. But in the meantime, I can't guarantee results without you taking my stuff. Right. So that's the easy conversation without having to have the big one. Yeah.
Okay. So you did the 24-hour fitness. Did you sell the business?
In 2005. We sold it then. Now, Mark stayed in, and they sold it again. Was it 2.5 years ago? I think. Right. Okay. We sold to IMG Fortsman Little. I was part of that group, though. Right. Back then, and then they sold again a couple of years ago. Right. Yeah.
So what did you do? Just go and live on, well, not on the beach, but come and live in Newcastle?
No. Are you kidding me, Mark? That was the whole thing. Mark and I are partners, and he's my business mentor, even though I'm older than he is and better looking. He is way smarter than me, trust me. And so, I mean, we're bound for life, in business. And so, when we sold, I had to stay at 24 Hour Fitness because I was just a huge part of the whole service engine, right, with Apex and everything else. So Carl Liebert, who was running at the time, he said, "You can't go anywhere. You got to stay." Now Mark left, like in 2007 or 8, and started New Evolution Ventures. And then what are we going to do now is we're going to spread out beyond one brand and do global brands. And he said, "Well, Neal, I got to have you over here." So I said, "I got to stick this thing out, get this done, so I can walk away with at least feeling okay about it." Because if I left, it was really going to kill the training program, obviously. Right. So I stayed till 2008, tried to pass it off okay, and I did. I stayed for 6 months longer than I should have. And I started dotFIT. Now I had to start dotFIT from scratch. So we spent 2 years having to build it before we could even do anything with it. So that would be our new service engine, like Apex was, into the New Evolution Ventures brands, UFC, Crunch, and all the ones at Mark. So that's how we kind of did it all together. Yeah. Right. Mark started New Evolution Ventures in 2008. I started dotFIT in 2009, and then we just hooked them together again, and we're on the road doing much bigger things than we did even with 24 Hour Fitness. So that's kind of how that all went. So no, are you kidding me? I'm just getting started.
Yeah.
I'm not going anywhere. I never drove up. No, I'm not going anywhere. I'm just beginning.
So what motivates you now? I'm not saying 65 is old, but as you said earlier, it's twice what life expectancy was years ago. Uh-huh. And you have made it definitely in most people's terms. Yeah. Right. What gets you up in the morning now then?
Yeah. Nothing more than what I told you when I was 24. That's why I say my life, I am cursed, and as much as my wife's chagrin, and they don't understand why we keep doing this. We we build the biggest fitness organizations in the world, from Apex to NASM to 24 Hour Fitness, and we sell them, and we build bigger ones. Right. Because I haven't saved the world yet. I made that commitment at 24, and I am cursed, and I don't, and I mean that seriously, Matthew. I really am. I'm not, sometimes I wonder, am I doing this because I made that commitment, or am I doing it because I'm competitive? Or am I doing it because I told everybody and I have to do it? So I'll die trying. I will save the world through fitness, and I've made a dent, without a doubt, with our empire that we've been able to build. And I just can't, that's what gets me up every morning. It gets me up every morning, and it will continue to get me up every morning until I can't breathe.
And how would you define success now at your stage in life?
I would define success if I saw everybody doing the things. I do a lecture around the world right now. In fact, I just got back from China, and I did what we call the play span versus lifespan. The things that people need to be able to, if you're a golfer, you're 100 and you live to be 100, and you make that last putt on the 18th hole, you die right there on the green. If you're a cyclist, you park your bike after your last little ride, you're 100 years old and it drops. What do you need to be able to keep that structure functioning all the way to then? Maybe not as good as when it was 20, but certainly you're still be able to. So, and that's all about the nutrition aspect of it. Obviously, the staying active thing we talked about, and keeping your weight somewhere near, but it's staying active and filling your gaps. All the things you're not going to get from diet. Diet's not going to solve it. So if I see that you got enough protein and you got your multivitamin and you're taking it daily all throughout your life as you age, if I see that in every pantry in America and the U.S., pantries are obviously things where we keep our essentials for life, right? Instead of a medicine cabinet where you're taking drugs to keep you alive, right? Then I'll know I've saved the world.
Right. Okay. And you have got some. I know we sort of skipped, but you also got did you start NASM? Is that right?
Well, no, I didn't start it. Okay. Bob Goldman did back in the 80s. He was like the first certification ever. I bought it very early on in the 90s. Right. And I only did that because trainers had no credibility. In my day, the trainers with credibility were the biggest guy in the room, right? With charisma. And that's the only guy you signed up with. And I go, that wasn't fair. If I'm going to save the world with fitness, I need a professional to do that. I need a professional that's going to be properly trained. And the trainer certifications were terrible. They were a book and you took a test. So when I bought NASM, I built it into this giant juggernaut of live courses, 2, 3, 4, 5-day courses, workshops. I bought out 2 more companies. So I didn't know anything about exercise. I was a bodybuilder. All I did was know how to lift heavy stuff, right? But so I brought out a couple of companies. Mike Clark owned one of them, who's like one of the smartest guys in the world with, physical therapy and sports, and also sports injuries and all that. So I go, that's the future. So I bought them out. We built, and he built that OPT model, and I had that, and I said, okay, I'll make that work in our distribution channel, and we did. And of course, the rest is history. NASM became the biggest in the world, and which I'm very proud of. But what it did, most importantly, Matthew, it gave trainers credibility. It raised the bar to education. So you can be ACE certified now, ACSM. Everybody had to copy us and figure, God, what did he do? I mean, he just raised the bar. He made these things big, and so now everyone had to do that. So now trainers have credibility, and I do want to take the credit for that. Yeah. I brought credibility to the fitness professional with a certification, because there was none back in the day, and no one. These were all nonprofits. I go, nonprofit is communism. I mean, these guys can't move. They can't even make a dent in education. So I bought, and NASM was a nonprofit. I bought it, turned it profit, and of course, I lost money for the first 10 years building it, right? Oh, of course, I lost a ton of money. I made it into the giant juggernaut. I did everything to get trainers educated, want to be educated, and learn everything you could about training people so they could live a longer, better life, not just lift heavy stuff and move around the gym. So that was it, and that was really why I did that. And then connecting trainers, and then I could slowly get the nutrition piece in, so we could do, everything that people needed eventually. Because without trainers, they are the future. They are the first line of healthcare, preventative healthcare. People would rather go to the gym than the hospital. Say that all day long. They'd rather take a simple supplement to fill nutritional gaps than take a drug to keep them alive. Yeah. I can tell you that right now, and that's the magic of what we can do when you have all the right information.
Yeah. What would you say is one of the things that you think you would put your success to? Is it a skill in understanding what, being able to communicate to people? Is it developing systems? Is it just a passion? How would you, what would you narrow that down to if you had to define it?
Well, it certainly wasn't developing systems. In fact, if there's anything I'm very weak on, it's developing systems.
Really?
Yeah, passion and hard work is, in any obviously entrepreneur will tell you, that's the magic that's the core of everything, right? And I've gone left when I should have gone right, and I've gone right when I should have gone left. So, all that. But I will tell you one thing: there's a leadership skill that is something you can't fake. It's just something that's real. There's an integrity piece that people are attracted to, and you end up people get attracted to you for the right reasons, and the next thing you want to get that passes on your passion and your hard work, and hard work is infectious. When people see you work hard and all that, and you have this special leadership skill, because there's one thing that I have that many people don't have at the high end of leadership, and that's fairness.
Right.
If there was one word that would not describe me, I would probably say the word is fair. I will throw out a high score and a low score like the Olympics, right? And kind of go down the middle, right? Those don't count because there's bias somewhere there, right? No matter what it is, whether it's politics, whether it's anything, there's a high score and a low score, there's somewhere, get down the middle. And I've been able to do that with anybody. And I'm also fair with staff. I mean, you can have the most intelligent person in the world on your staff. And they are. And they need very little input to get the output that you want. But you may have someone that's far less intelligent and I won't give up on that person. I will give them more input to get the output that I want.
Right.
And that's kind of being fair, because I do have that. Growing up without parents, I'm always, and making it to the other side is an anomaly. Most guys go down worse, right? But I made it to the other side, and when you do, you try to be that parent to everybody. So I will nurture that person a little bit more. And I will find that person can often be better than that super intelligent. Hard work will trump intelligence all day long.
Yeah.
All day long. Right. So that's it. That's really is a building a culture. I think I can build a culture that can add to the success a little quicker than not. I feel that I'm a good leader, and I feel very confident that I'm a good leader. And I think you could ask most people around me, they would probably say the same thing, even anonymously.
Yeah. If you have got a hard worker, because people sort of use this to say, well, if you want to be successful, you've got to work hard. But what if someone, if they want to get to LA, but they're working really hard and running to San Francisco, so they're just working hard in the wrong direction. How How do you get over that?
Yeah, distractions are the killer of any business. And it is really all about focus. And I'll tell you right now, if you ask me, what is your biggest what do you think you did wrong in your 30 years of building this, being a part of building this empire? I would say distraction. I would say I was distracted trying to do too much to a broad base rather than focusing on what I was really good at from the core.
Right.
So that's how you have to bring them back. You have to make them understand that it's not about working hard, it's about working smart and hard. Yeah. And I know you've heard that a million times, but I mean, really focusing on that. I learned it the hard way. I look back and I think I could have easily been far more successful if I hadn't tried to before I had really accomplished that core business that I was trying to get done, before I moved on to something else.
Yeah.
And you watch this in the gym business. Some guy has this very successful gym. Oh, I'm gonna build 17 more of these. And then 14 of them pull the other ones down, before you really nail it.
Yeah.
So yeah, distraction is a big problem, and you've got to get people focused.
Yeah, I think it's a very good point. A lot of people I speak to, and even ourselves included, it's very easy. And I guess the more successful you are, the more opportunities that are presented to you as well.
Yeah, you got to turn them down. Now, I will say, Mark always he taught me this. You know what, Neal? There's nothing wrong with throwing 50 things on the wall, because probably only one's going to stick. He taught me 1 out of 50 would stick.
Right.
And it's funny he said that because, I've been fortunate. Things have stuck a little more than that because I was fairly focused and single-minded early on. But then when you start getting bigger, to your point, and you just made a very good point there, more stuff gets thrown at you, right? So now I'm checking out all this. I'm basically chasing ghosts, for some of these big opportunities, and almost none of them pan out.
Yeah.
But it is about 1 in 20, somewhere around there.
Yeah. Okay. So just a couple of quick questions before we finish then. So what would you say is your biggest business failure or disappointment, and how did you overcome it?
I would say the biggest business failure is when I started dotFIT. Obviously, it was still, financially, I was very successful, before that, and during that time, but I still owned NASM, which was always that kind of cushion I had. But I started dotFIT when I left 24 Hour Fitness, and I had to start from scratch because obviously I couldn't just take what I did at Apex, because 24 Hour owned it, right? So I had to start from scratch, undo, which was a good thing because you could just do everything right, again. But I started it during the recession. In the heart of the recession, right? It doesn't get any worse than that. And all the gyms that had already been committed to me, they weren't going to flip over from Apex to dotFIT during a recession, right? So I went down. I went through I was burning through $1 million a month, building the platform, building the losses, keeping the employees, doing everything like that. That was a big mistake. And one of the things about the recession, I think, that taught every businessman out there, businesswoman out there, any business person, period, is how to really run lean and mean. So it took me 2 or 3 years to get through that. It was very difficult. We didn't turn the corner for 5 years, I don't think. And it was I lost millions and millions of dollars as building the platform. And of course, the rest is history now, and obviously proud of where we are today. And I would do it again, but I would never make that mistake again. That was a huge mistake. It should have been a very slow process, doing it slowly. Don't bring on that much staff. Don't get arrogant. I got arrogant.
Right.
Everything I had touched in my life, Matthew, turned to gold. Whether it was Gold's Gym and Nutrition Analysis, whether it was Apex, whether it was NASM and 24 Hour Fitness, everything was magic. Mark used to always say, you got that perfect touch, right? And I go, well, so I'm going to do this and it's going to work. And my wife, she would just look at me and she goes, are you just going to piss everything away for this? Is in the middle of dotFIT, losing money, right? She goes, you can just, and she said it to me because she was the CFO of our companies, and she looked at me and she goes, you just got arrogant. And she was dead right.
Yeah.
So don't ever get to a place where, I got this. Don't. So I would do it much slower, much different.
Right. Okay.
Don't take that. That was a huge risk. And I did. I just got overconfident, and there are extenuating circumstances you don't have control over. And one thing is a recession. I didn't have any control over that, number one. Yeah. And then some other things. So anyway, that was during the time I had sold NASM too, during that time, which was great because I sold it at a high number, because during the recession, that's recession proof. Right. It's actually the opposite. Everybody's looking for a job getting NASM certified. Yeah. So we sold it for a huge number, during that period.
Right. Okay.
Anyway.
And the final question then. So escape your limits is about overcoming what you've been told to believe is impossible and making that impossible possible. What would be a memorable example of escaping your own personal limits?
Yeah, I think. Let me think here. That's a good one. That's a good question, actually. I will say one of the things I say in my lectures is that the one thing there's rules in the street. One rule in the street is you have to take care of yourself before you can take care of everybody else, or you're no good to anybody else. That's one. The second rule in the street is no fear. If you have fear, you're dead the next day. People smell it. Everybody around you smells it, and you're done. So I brought that no fear attitude into business, where I realized that people would say, "How are you going to build NASM? How are you going to buy NASM and build it? I mean, how are you going to do that?" As soon as you tell me I can't do something, it's the first thing on my to-do list. It's the competitiveness, you know what I mean, that gets me over that to a certain extent, and the no fear. You take that attitude I had in the streets of no fear, and I brought it into business, because the only boundaries that you have in business are the ones that you put out there yourself.
Right.
There's no one else putting them out there. You're the only one putting them out there. So so it was more of a competitive thing. I'm trying to think of an incident to answer your question that I remember getting over, and I think, I don't know. I guess I think it might have been the same situation with that's too late in life. So it had to be something earlier. I was thinking the dotFIT thing because everybody kept saying, you're just throwing good money against bad right now. I mean, you don't need to do this.
No.
I mean, everyone, and even the investors were going like this, Neal, and go, but as soon as they saw me stay in, they're going, well, if you said, we're going to stay in too. I mean, it was one of those, you're kind of in that little funding cycle like thing.
And did you do it just because
I did it because
you had to do it?
Yeah, because I had to do it. And that was it. I go, I can't lose. I just can't. I'm just going to sit in here, and if I got to get rid of everything, what I got to do, I mean, I don't care how far I got to go, which is not a good decision. I would not teach that to anybody. You got to learn when it's time to walk away on something. Really? Anybody else would have. Mark even told me that. I mean, everybody told me that. I didn't, and I got past that little, and then boom, everything just happened the right way, and rest is history. So that was a tough time for me, but I'm trying to think of an incident when I was younger that I could pass on to somebody. Well, you know what? Oh, okay, yeah, okay. Here we go. I will tell you this. It sounds like this is all about Neal, and he was a tough guy and all this, but I will tell you right now, I'm a total pussy compared to my wife, because I'll tell you what she said. When she was the one that helped me start my first business, which was Apex, not including what I did at Golds, because there was a business I had inside there, but that wasn't nothing like this. Golds was paying me good money, 6 figures a year to travel around, do the stuff that they were doing and all that. I had my first baby, Nelson, during that period. I'm getting paid well, everything is great, but I felt uncomfortable. I wasn't satisfying myself on getting out to the rest of the world. I figured I was trapped in Golds, and they were trying to make me do things I really didn't want to do. And she would see me come home every day, and she goes, well, Neal, if you're the rainmaker, why don't you just start your own business? Well, this is my wife. I'm going to start my own business, leave 6 figures, and make 0? And she goes, yeah, I'll go ask my mom. I go, we don't have any money. I go ask my mom. And so she borrowed 60. I said, so she was the one that gave me the courage.
Right.
It wasn't me. It wasn't my no fear. It wasn't all the bullshit that I tell people about how tough I am. It was her. She looked at me and she goes, you're the tough guy in the room. You're the rainmaker, right? So why don't you go start your own business? And I go, well, how am I going to do that? And she goes, well, I'll go borrow $60,000 from my mom if that's what you say you need. So she borrowed $60,000 from her mother. Wow. Her mother trusted me because she'd seen my seminars, and she said this, and he goes, do it. I did it. I went from making $100,000 a year, or maybe even a little bit more, down to 0. Right? And the people that were around me worked for nothing until the business got going, because they wanted to be a part of me. And when I left Golds, I took the whole company with me. Right. They all came with me. And so they said they went from the same thing, 6 figures to nothing, to be able to stay with me. And that was, I was telling you about leadership, right? And the attraction and all those kind of things. And then we went through that 60,000 so fast because we were selling things faster than we could collect the money. Right. That I had to borrow 70,000 from her aunt.
Just for cash flow.
And it's so funny, yeah. And so it's funny, you'll love this. So both her mother and her aunt, they said, don't pay us back, just let it ride. So needless to say, they made a ton of money on the whole thing, right? And the whole thing went down. But that was it. It was her. That was the time where I go, wow, she just challenged me. And she's tougher than I am.
Yeah.
Anyway, so that's it. That was the one that pushed me over.
Yeah. Well, Neal, it's been great. Appreciate your time.
No, thank you.
Really
I love it. It was great spending time with you too. Anyone from the same, the same roots. Perfect. Love it.
Thank you very much.
Yeah, my
That's a
pleasure.
great story. Hey, I hope you enjoyed this podcast. If you did, then please go over to iTunes and subscribe to the Escape Your Limits podcast. Leave a review, leave a comment. It really would help us a lot to continue to keep these going.